Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking something absolutely massive. We're taking a deep dive into the 905 Woods Digital Refinery. They actually call this the Sentient Bridge, and honestly, it's easy to see why. This isn't just some minor upgrade to your standard recycling process. No, it is a fundamental state change. We are looking at a platform that takes chaotic, raw construction and demolition waste and literally transforms it into high-value, zero-contaminant biocarbon feedstocks. It's taking a physical liability and turning it into a completely verifiable digital asset. Here is the roadmap for our deep dive today. First, the 2026 regulatory pincer. Second, building the Sentient Bridge. Third, the next-gen edge AI stack. Fourth, application workflow and UI. And we'll wrap up with the economics of explainable compliance. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the 2026 regulatory pincer. A convergence of crises. To really grasp why this refinery was built, you have to look at the sheer velocity of these colliding macroeconomic events. We have a classic pincer movement happening right now, fiercely squeezing the North American waste and construction sectors. First up, in January 2026, you've got the blue box collapse, which forces massive volumes of commercial waste straight out of municipal streams and into private hauling. Simultaneously, aggressive U.S. trade policy has scheduled a 50% Section 338 tariff wall for August 19, 2026. That essentially slams the door on cross-border exports of finished Canadian wood products. And if that wasn't enough pressure, by 2034, Ontario hits its capacity cliff, meaning all domestic clayline landfill capacity is literally physically exhausted. Traditional logistics just cannot survive with both of these doors closing at the exact same time. Just look at this extreme economic arbitrage. Over in the Greater Toronto area, the tipping fee floor sits at a staggering $189.86 per ton, mostly due to those high regulatory levies. Now, compare that to the accept side in Michigan, which ranges from a mere 36 cents up to a proposed $5 per ton. This jaw-dropping financial gap is exactly why the Ontario-Michigan Waste Corridor exists in the first place. It's a massive trade pipe moving 3.46 million tons of municipal solid waste every single year into Michigan. To put that into perspective, that's absorbing 14.35% of all the waste buried in the state. But, as you can probably guess, this corridor is now incredibly vulnerable to border friction and tariffs. So, what does this all mean? Well, traditional flat fee disposal is essentially obsolete in this new era. Clinging to the old ways means you're taking on immense regulatory risk, you're carrying unverified contaminants, and you're going to slam right into those severe cross-border tariffs we just discussed. The 905 Wood Digital Refinery completely flips the script here. It gives you AI-verified, market-arbitraged biocarbon production that actually qualifies for exemptions under the USMCA. It's no longer optional, it's a mandatory shift from passive waste disposal to proactive, tech-enabled sovereignty. Which brings us nicely to Section 2, building the Sentient Bridge, explainable compliance. Okay, so we're transitioning from raw intake triage to high-value biocarbon monetization. This concept right here is the absolute beating heart of the platform. Explainable compliance. What is it? It's using AI to provide court-admissible, real-time chemical threshold rationales. Gone are the days of a human with a clipboard squinting at a dumpster making an educated guess about what's inside. Instead, the AI physically converts that chaos into a data-verified, trade-exempt digital asset. It's strictly compliant with Ontario Regulation 347 and USMCA standards, fundamentally shifting a physical liability into a bankable asset. By leaning heavily on this data-first approach, the Sentient Bridge gracefully navigates all of that border chaos. Through explainable compliance, the system safely reclassifies the material under HS code 3825.0. That's the specific category for verified residual feedstock wholly obtained in Canada. This one critical move is exactly what mitigates those massive 35% USMCA tariffs under HS code 3825.10 and completely dodges the 40% de minimis transshipment penalties. It's brilliant. Moving right along to Section 3, Next-Gen AI Stack, the Model Council. Now, how do they actually pull this off out in the mud and dust of a live demolition site? Well, with massive horsepower right at the physical edge. We aren't talking about basic webcams here. This is their mandatory Layer 1 hardware stack. We're looking at Google Pixel 11 Pro handsets, completely driven by the ridiculous computing power of the Tensor G6 AI chip, running on the Android 17 operating system. Add in a turbo-quant compression layer and the light RT edge inference runtime, and what you get is zero fatigue, sub-500 millisecond processing capability right there at the demolition edge. You essentially have an AI supercomputer sitting in the palm of an operator's hand. But here's the kicker. That edge device doesn't work alone. When it encounters a complex visual, say it's only 70% confident on a material, it doesn't just guess. It escalates the issue to what they call the model council. Think of it like a supreme court of AI. It triggers a triple model consensus protocol involving absolute heavyweights in the cloud, like Gemini 3.6 Pro, Gemini 3.5 Flash, Claude Opus 4.8, Claude Sonnet 4.6, and GPT OSS 120B to adjudicate the decision. These massive intellects step in on high-stakes sorting decisions to completely eliminate AI hallucinations and visual fallacies. And the back-end orchestration linking all this magic together is just as robust. 905 Wood relies on Google Gemini Vertex AI pipelines to manage the complex logic. All the data lives in AlloyDB, and specifically, it's located in the Montreal region to guarantee strict state persistence that complies with PPADA, Canada's federal privacy law. Plus, every single decision path and model hash is written directly into immutable cryptographic event ledgers. This guarantees that every physical transition of that waste has a perfectly synced, legally defensible digital twin. Let's look at Section 4, Application Workflow and UI, the 12-stage isolation chain. So let's break down the rigorous workflow that makes up this 12-stage isolation chain. The really crucial point here is the structure itself. This TCLP hazardous isolation chain is chunked into 4 main phases. Phase 1 is the 2-second multimodal intake engine and the density engineering engine. Next, we hit the dual model consensus check. Now, if any anomalies pop up there, it triggers Phase 3, physical spectroscopic sensor validation using advanced X-ray and near-infrared sensors. Finally, it all culminates in cryptographic hold-to-seal verification. This entire chain exists for one reason: to aggressively quarantine heavy metals before they ever even get close to the biocarbon supply chain or an international border. From a user experience perspective, the triage and verification gate uses what they call a hostile UI. It's a high-contrast, strictly industrial interface using stark black, white, and safety orange and yellow colorways. It's meticulously designed for those producer profiles, meaning operators wearing heavy gloves, standing out in the pouring rain, or trying to read a screen in harsh, direct sunlight. The tech has to perform flawlessly on the ground, every single time, because safety and compliance are absolutely paramount. Picture the operator actually standing out there by the truck. They press and hold the screen for a 2.0-second confirmation, and they feel a haptic click. That physical action instantly triggers the Titan M2 secure element embedded inside the device. Immediately, the system seals a tamper-evident envelope. This envelope embeds GPS coordinates accurate to within a single meter, the active model version, a highly precise timestamp, and cryptographic kernel hashing. It takes all of that and fires it directly to the automated RPRA API, which is the regulatory authority's manifesting system. Boom, strict Ontario Regulation 347 compliance instantly achieved without a single piece of physical paperwork. What the general contractor gets out of this is an impenetrable, auditable shield against any customs audits. It's a suite of unified, cryptographically signed PDF deliverables. We're talking the USMCA Shield Certificate of Origin, electronic verification and compliance PDFs, a zero levy report card loaded with embedded QR codes, and a Puro Earth CORC registry entry. Section 5, Economics of Explainable Compliance. We've seen the tech, now let's talk about the money. Check out this number right here, $1,053.23. That is the exact, immediate savings on this circular economy levy secured for 144-yard mothership trailer the very second the platform verifies that load as clean wood. Let's break down the actual math on how that happens. Here is how that financial realization plays out. Under Ontario's rules, unverified mixed waste falls into the mixed band. That triggers a massive $60 per ton levy, costing $1,149 for a standard 19.15-ton mothership load. But by bringing in AI verification, 905 Wood drops that straight into the clean band at just $5 per ton, or about $95.77 per load. That creates a $55 spread, yielding that exact $1,053.23 in pure savings. And even more importantly, it completely avoids what is, in reality, a $185 per ton true penalty for contaminated loads. The savings don't just stop at levies, though. This system fundamentally redefines logistics risks and rewards. Through their Request for Quote, or RFQ platform, they can price lock prior to any tariffs being implemented. And because the Edge AI is adjudicating the exact TCLP limits, making absolutely sure arsenic is below 2.5 milligrams per liter and lead and chromium are below 5.0, it completely wipes out failure risks and chemical liabilities. By definitively preventing those border seizures we talked about, having this verifiable data on hand significantly lowers Ontario transportation insurance requirements for the entire carrier fleet. Now look at this staggering number, 7,660 Canadian dollars. That is the value of the carbon dividends, or CORTCs, generated per load when validated at the premium, spot-high MRV, measurement, reporting, and verification tier. Even if you're just looking at the standard book value, it's still $2,721 per load. You aren't just saving money here, you are literally minting an entirely new revenue stream. So how do they capture that insane value? Simple, by routing that verified clean wood to high-temperature pyrolysis. This creates highly stable biocarbon, which then yields those massive carbon dividends. And 905 wood cleverly uses a stripe decoupled billing architecture to handle it. Instead of hitting you with a massive service fee, they transparently pass the logistics costs straight through to the contractor, and they offset the heavy capital costs of the AI hardware by retaining that carbon dividend for themselves. The system is a completely self-funding infrastructure model that actually pays for the Sentient Bridge. Let's wrap this up with a final provocative thought. The walls are quite literally closing in. Landfills are reaching capacity, and borders are rapidly weaponizing tariffs against physical liabilities. So, when physical borders finally close to unverified waste, is your logistics pipeline ready to trade exclusively in verifiable digital assets? The bioeconomy is already here, and the data proves, without a doubt, that AI verification is the only way forward. Is your pipeline ready?